What's going on, y'all? This is Jermaine Johnson, again, of the Jermaine Johnson Show, and welcome to another segment, which is called the Quick View. Again, y'all know that we have the Jermaine Johnson Show podcast, and then we've got the Quick View, which is a segment of the Jermaine Johnson Show, where we like to interview interesting individuals. But before I hop off into this, make sure you all like, share, subscribe, and get with us, because this is brought to you by the Arena, South Carolina, which is a media company, progressive media company, and we're all about sharing interesting perspectives on politics, sports, and a bunch of other things that have to do with culture. But without further ado, I want to introduce y'all to a good friend of mine who is also a constituent of mine. She just happens to live in the greatest district in this entire state and have the best representative in the entire state. And a lot of people don't know, she is probably the prime reason, one of the two. I'm not gonna downgrade Miss Margaret Sumter, but one of the two prime individuals who are the reason why I am in elected office right now. This is my former campaign manager right here, Ms. Peggy Simons, and we are talking about some good, interesting stuff. Yeah, please tell the people who you are and what you do.
Sure. It's good to see you, Jermaine, as always. I am Peggy Simons. I do live in the great district of Representative Jermaine Johnson. Very happy. I am still in the district
Are
by a
you in the
hair.
right number? Are you in the right number?
By 52. we looked at the lines. I still made the cut, thank goodness. But I am a Columbia native, Richland County born. Went to high school here, went to the University of South Carolina, go Gamecocks, and made my way into politics somehow. I blame Dr. Fowler from the late Dr. Donald
The
Fowler
late
from,
great Dr. Fowler. Yeah.
yes, he was one of my favorite professors at Carolina, and he really encouraged all of us to get involved in politics. And so in his class, I went to my first volunteership for a campaign for, I think, Senator Inez Tannenbaum. So that was some years ago, I think 2004, 2005. And just from there, kind of like sparked my interest in political activism, and somehow or another got into working with campaigns, got to work with you on your first and second campaigns for the House. And now I am on the board of voter registration and elections for the great county of Richland. And
Yes.
In this role, I get to pretty much make sure that we are ensuring all of the elections in Richland County are done correctly, fairly, transparently, with the utmost respect and honor for the democratic process for elections. So,
Yes. So y'all listeners, she has a very important role when it comes to our elections and making sure that integrity is being carried out, and that type of stuff. But before I ask you some more questions about that, who your auntie is? Because she called me.
well,
tell,
I
tell
have
me
so
about your
many.
auntie. She called
You
me not too
know,
long ago.
I have so many, but the one you're referring to is my aunt Livola Taylor,
The
from the big
honorable
city,
Latola
from
Taylor.
the
Yeah.
big city of Gaston. Yes, the former Representative Livola Taylor from back in the
Yeah.
early '90s, I believe,
Yeah.
early '90s. But she is one of my many aunties and one of
I
my
want to make
favorites.
sure I
But then
gave
again,
her a
they're
shout
all
out
my
while we was
favorites.
on here. Yeah. She
Yes.
she's one of the ones. She calls me whenever she needs something, but she's not too demanding as a constituent, but she'll call me to make sure I'm on my job. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, I think she's
But
earned that. She doesn't have to be demanding anymore. She just calls and just
yeah,
informs.
exactly. Yeah. She gets right to me. The
Correct.
the election stuff that's going on. So over the past few years, we've seen a lot and heard a lot about election integrity. And then Richland County, historically in the past, has had issues when it comes to elections and vote and that type of stuff. I know on election day, I still do it to this day, but every election day, I go and I deliver food to the poll workers that are in my district, to make sure that they're taken care of. I haven't heard too many problems as of recently going up in there outside of the lack of poll workers that we have for these precincts. I mean, what's going on with that with the poll workers? What's going on with what type of things can we do to help out?
Well, first, I want to say that we've seen a lot of improvement with the Richland County Voter Registration and Elections Office under the leadership of the new director, Travis Alexander, and the board members. We have seen an increase in just the integrity, the transparency, just how things are being run. When it comes to poll workers, it's just one of those things. It's just the nature of the game. But unfortunately, if we're not able to pay people to get to the polls and work that day, like if we're not having like competitive pay, because some counties, in fact, Lexington County has increased their poll worker pay, and that's one thing we have advocated for. We have talked to county council, and we were able to give a little bit of a boost in this primary, and then I believe we are going to be adding some additional funds in our budget for this coming up election cycle in November and going forward. But that's the main reason. It's a lot of poll workers have been doing this for a long time. It's family members, it's husband and wives,
Mhm.
and neighbors who pretty much have been doing this for years, and they have certain expectations. But then also because cost of living has increased, we have to kind of keep up with the inflation and everything. So we have been working on making sure that we increase our pay for poll workers. Travis does a great job with training the poll workers, but of course, you are going to have the one or two times where there's so much information, it's a short time period that they're getting this training. So, of course, communication can get a little weakened, but he is always right there to pretty much go to any poll location he needs to and pretty much sort out anything, because we've seen that in the past, just in this recent primary where campaign volunteers were told they weren't able to stand within a
Mhm.
certain distance, and that
Mhm.
communication was a little unclear, but it got resolved. So I think going forward, we're going to see even more increase in the efficiency of our elections in Richland County with his leadership and with the board.
Yeah, I've had the pleasure of meeting him and talking to him a few times about some of the things, and I do believe that his head and his heart is in the right place with helping the poll workers and making sure we do continue with the integrity of our elections here, and that we are doing the right thing. Um, I mean, what can people like myself like? What can we do to help attract more poll workers? Because we've seen the combination of precincts being combined, but also, let me back up, listeners. I need y'all to also understand that we can't force, and these poll these election committee members, they can't force locations to make sure that they can put a pole there. Like you can't force private owners to say, listen, you're going to let us put this there. So when precincts are combined or moved, it's mainly because the property owner or they say they don't have the capacity to hold it there. So I need people to understand that. So don't get. I mean, I understand you're getting upset because you're used to going to a certain location for however long. But if the property owner gets tired of dealing with whatever it is, at that point, then they have their rights to say, you know what, we're no longer going to serve as a polling location.
Right.
So I know that's some of the problems that y'all are dealing with is combining places, moving places. How are y'all dealing with the backlash on that?
Well, there's a couple of things that go into that. First, you have your precincts, and the precincts are pretty much controlled by the delegation. So we had some permanent precinct, I think, changes that were
Hmm.
approved by the delegation. So that's the precinct. So notification is always sent out to constituents when your precinct changes, because that's a big change. A polling location can be a different location from your actual precinct. So we have multiple different polling locations. And of course, we always prioritize working with public facilities first, because typically we can go in and say, hey, we're paying tax dollars. All of our tax dollars are going into this public location. And so we would like to utilize it for a polling location. And we typically have good um, responses and success with that. However, you do fall into certain places. We had a fire station that decided they didn't want to be a polling location anymore because it just wasn't convenient for them. And a fire station is understandable. So we were able to find another location. But you're right, it is a little tedious working with private facilities and seeing if we can influence them, encourage them to let us use that location. And then also the location has to pretty much have all of the essential needs or items that we need for the polling location, for drive up voting and everything for handicapped services and different facilities that have to be there for us to utilize it. But we have run into some situations in the past, of course, of, some polling locations not being accessible and they change their minds. They don't want to use it anymore. But overall, I think Travis and his team have done a great job of looking for the different polling locations and prioritizing which ones are going to be best for a certain area based on voter turnout, history, and things of that nature. So when you saw in the primary, I think for the runoff, there were certain locations he picked. They were strategically picked for certain reasons. We're not always going to please everyone. That's for
Yeah.
sure. But I think they definitely do their very best to prioritize the locations and strategically picking places that are going to be sufficient for that precinct in that area.
November is coming up quickly. The RNC is happening right now. The DNC will be happening in about a month. I assume, and I assume that we're going to have a large voter turnout in November because of the stuff that's going on nationally in the presidential election. So we have a large turnout. Also, we just saw, that the shooting that has happened, the assassination attempt. So you can expect some, I guess, some feelings and emotions to be on high on election day in November. What are
Yeah,
the things? I mean, are y'all talking about any of these things for this next election coming up? I mean, are y'all, is there? I
we
mean, are
are.
y'all prepared for this? What's about to happen? I know I'm concerned. So I mean, are
We
y'all prepared for
are
this?
we are definitely getting prepared. I think the most important part of this upcoming election in November is going to be early voting. And we are going to have a good amount of early voting locations, even more, I believe, from the primary, which is going to be great. So
Yeah,
that's 2 weeks of early voting. Unfortunately, we weren't able to get that law passed where the hours of the early voting would be in line with the polling, like election day from 7 to 7. Unfortunately, it's still going to be the regular, I think from 8 to 5, I believe. I could be wrong, but I believe it's more so in business hours for early voting. But nonetheless, we're going to have a lot of locations. So I think that's part of the main prep because we have seen that more and more voters are taking advantage of early voting because it's convenient, it's great. But I'm pretty sure on election day, we're going to see high turnout numbers as well because of everything that's going on around this campaign season.
yep.
It's different. It's a different environment for sure. And me and my board members will be talking with Travis and his team on how we can best prepare for that.
Yeah, yeah. All right, so I want to switch gears for a second on this last topic before we hop on here. So, and I'm gonna tie everything together with you. You were involved with the Merge, which is the group of women and helping to empower women in political spaces and that type of thing.
Yeah,
And you also currently work in education.
I do.
And with education. So on a national level, state level, as well as national, we're seeing an attempt at book bans and rolling back women's rights and that type of stuff. How do you feel? How do you feel about where we're headed in terms of these book bans and not trying to educate women as to some of these things? Like, I mean, how do you feel about this stuff?
So, yeah, I definitely was involved in Emerge. I was on the board from the very initial when we brought Emerge to South Carolina, and I was on the recruitment and selection committee. So I got to be involved in selecting the women who are going to go through our 6 month training program and had aspirations to run for office. And I got to meet some phenomenal women who are serving all across South Carolina right now. Um, and that was really awesome. I always encourage women to run for office. We have seen statistically that women in office just make better legislators. No offense to our male counterparts. However, it is has been seen. The research is there. I believe we're equal, of course, but of course, I support women getting in more of those spaces. And with book bans, because I work in education, I work for Ridley Graduate School of Education. It's based out of New York. We have several different campuses across the state, across the country, and I manage our academic compliance for all of our different states. And what I have seen is we run into a lot of different situations in different states on the requirements for teachers, for certification specifically. And that's where you get into like the whatever they're going to be teaching our students. And when you come, like, when you're talking about book banning and the laws that are being drafted around that, it's interesting when you see the cross, like the intersection between education and politics and policies that are pretty much hurting teachers. And we already have a teacher shortage crisis. We've seen a
Yep.
decrease in the amount of students going into education preparation programs, EPPs, which lead to certification, which lead to having more teachers in the classrooms. And when you have states like South Carolina who have, antiquated processes that include the
Yep.
praxis exam and things that are just, they have been documented and shown that they do not assess fully the capabilities of an educator. It's creating barriers. And then you have even more barriers. You don't have people in the rooms having these conversations with legislators like yourself about the impact and the influence of banning certain reading material for our students. So I believe in having good options for our students for reading materials. I think parents should always have a say in what their children are being asked to read. And if they have a legitimate reason why they don't feel like their children should be reading that, then maybe have a opt-out system. But banning books altogether when there are certain students who want to read those books, I don't think that's all a great option. We all know that when you ban something and you say you can't do it or you prohibit it, it just makes people want to do it
That's all it
more or
does.
go after
That's
it. And
all it does.
these kids have access to everything. We can ban every single book from every single school. They still have access to it, from public libraries to online libraries to YouTube to TikTok. They're going to access this information somewhere. But we just need to be very mindful and have some awareness when we're talking about eliminating certain materials we don't want students to read.
That's right. That's right. Listen, I agree with you 100%. Peggy, but it has been a fantastic interview, fantastic time to have you on here to
Always
talk about
glad
the
to
stuff.
come to the Jermaine Johnson show.
Isn't that crazy, right?
Yes. The JJ
I,
show.
oh Lord, it's funny. She like, I remember when. I'm like, man, please, you right around the corner. You better stop playing.
I do remember when, it's been some years now, like 2017. I distinctly remember when I met you and Evan. And from there, it's just like so much has happened. And I'm so
Yeah.
proud of everything you have accomplished and everything you continue to do. I'm very thankful for all that you do. So thank you.
Let's not get me all emotional here. All right. So again, y'all, please like, share, subscribe. This is another quick view brought to you by the Arena SC. And we look forward to having you back on here again.
Absolutely. Thank you.